It's hard to know all that comes with renting a home or apartment. That's why the Geico Insurance Agency makes getting covered for personal property loss and damage quick and easy. Visit geico.com and see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
Welcome to another great version of Younger Life. Hi, I'm Rick Federici.
And I'm Mary Anthony.
Oh, Mary Anthony, another great day to be alive.
It.
I'm really excited that you have put together such a great program. Let's chat a little bit about Younger Life today because we're going to give you an action-packed hour of some phenomenal information.
Lots of good information. Well, you know, we're always learning on Younger Life. And we recently learned that May is National Foster Care Month, and I didn't know that. It's observed in May, and it began with President Ronald Reagan in 1988. Awesome. And it's so important. It's such a part of our community that we don't really maybe always know about, but it's necessary, and it's vital to our community. We need it. We need all the social services, that we have, but foster care particularly is it's moving, and it's something that it can be sad, but it also it's a blessing to the children that need it at the time, at least for a while. So I think it was important to discuss. And so today we have Nicole with us.
Nicole, it is great to see you. How are you today?
Great. It's nice to meet both of you.
Pleasure. Pleasure is all ours. And I thank you first and foremost for what you and the crew and the team of professionals that you work with do, not only for our community, but straight to the heart, the families, and to the children. You had mentioned this is very, very important. A lot of us sit on different boards that help out to be the voice, to be there, to mentor. Let's chat a little bit about why this is so important. I mean, I know it's near and dear to a lot of us.
It is. And I'd like to start with asking Nicole. I'm kind of curious what got you into this field. I mean, it's heavy business at times. I mean, and really much of the time, I think it's not, it would be wonderful if we didn't need any sort of social service programs, but that's certainly not the reality. So I'm curious if you wouldn't mind to tell us kind of what got you started.
It was not on purpose. I actually started in the mental health field and just started working with kids and saw a lot of the issues that the Department of Child Services deals with, the abuse and the neglect, and just kind of moved into that way as a way to move up a little bit higher and to be able to help the kids a little bit better.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and you want to know what? When you are doing this, we're going to really get involved with the actual subject and take it to different levels. As you are looking at, obviously you're a young woman, but you've been involved with different things. What hits you most? Because there's got to be different things that kind of connect with your heart and your psyche every time when it comes to this. But what can you throw out there to the audience? Because I want folks to be educated by this, and I want them to be moved by this. And I really would like for some of them to kind of move to the next level with this particular help in our area. What kind of moves you?
I think what moves me the most is we have a lot of abuse and neglect in our county, and we take these kids in, and just the passion that our licensed foster parents have to be able to take these kids in not knowing anything, and really just being willing to, take it all from these kids is probably what hits me the most.
Yeah.
What would you say to when you're doing something like this, is this an involved process? Because we have chatted so many different times offline with other folks that have tapped into the Younger Life mode. What is it out there that people need to know to get involved? Because obviously it's not going to be something you're going to wake up and say, I want to do it, although some may. But then actually taking that step, is it a very involved process for families or couples to get involved with?
It's heavy at the beginning with the training and getting everything set up and to become licensed. But then once they're in it, it's just kind of maintaining, and it just kind of ebbs and flows with the case of the kids that they have with them. For those that don't want to be foster parents, if you know somebody who's a foster parent, support them. That's a big thing. Prayers are needed for everybody involved with these cases, because not everybody is meant to be a foster parent.
Very
Good
true.
point.
Very true. Would you mind to start with explaining what foster care is?
Absolutely.
The basic, I guess.
Absolutely. Foster care, when we get involved with children that are either abused or neglected, and find that there's a safety issue where we need to remove them from their homes, foster care is where we place them so that they can be in a family setting with people who are not going to hurt them.
Very good. So that obviously makes that child become a foster child. I'm curious, what is the process when choosing which foster home to place them?
Right now, there's a wide shortage, so
Is
we are
there?
limited on our choices. But our traditional foster care worker, Sherry Gallstrom in LaPorte County, she knows the traditional families very well. And she knows that when we get a few kids, we get as much information about them, and she'll know whether or not they're going to be a good fit in this family or this family. And she'll tend to start with the ones that are going to be a better fit.
I want to ask if you ladies don't mind, because I would love to help out on any level here that we as Younger Life can help out, but also in our community, those of you listening, you bring up something great. If you can't be a foster parent, if you can't help foster or even be a part of that part of the equation, maybe you could be a part of the solution and comfort and or support folks. But when you're looking at fostering just as a way of helping, is that process, detailed out in terms of like, what do you need to do to get that? When you say shortage, so we are looking for foster families. We are
Always,
looking
right?
for, but I
Always.
mean, that to me is crazy. Like that is half the battle. So you're telling me here on Younger Life that we've got kids that need our help and we can't help them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that freaks me out just as a parent and as someone that is involved with the community and on a lot of these programs. So what would you say? You've got the mouthpiece, you've got the viewing piece. People are listening right now attentively to you, several thousand people. What can we do to help? And what would be the qualifications? What do we need to kind of hone in on there?
Okay. To become a foster parent, you need to be able to pass criminal background checks, take 10 hours of training classes through our department, as well as be first aid CPR trained and do a mound of paperwork. Once all of that is done, we put you guys through some extensive interviews, and then we write up a home study about what would be good for you guys and maybe would not be good for you. And then we just kind of go forward, and usually within the week, we will have a newly licensed foster family full with kids.
Is there a point where, so you would say, okay, we've got a set of parents here they have children that are now adults and they're pretty much in college or out of the house. These guys are in their 50s. They're both working professionals. They feed, they love family, they love bonding, but they're kind of busy. That might be something that might say, ooh, we need someone to hone in on this child because we've got a couple of issues we need to deal with. Is that correct?
Yes. A lot of our foster families are dual working parents. And it's just as if they were your own kids. They can go to daycare, they can go to school, and you just do life as you would when your kids were little and just keep going.
I think too, and I'll just throw this out there because I'm sure if anybody wants to chime in, 219-861-1632, 219-861-1632. You're looking at that family structure. What is the average, time that someone would spend with a family? So is it 2 months? Is it a year? I'm assuming that in some cases they're hanging loose for a while.
It's a very wide spectrum. We prepare our foster parents to be prepared for at least a year. I've seen kids go home in 3 months. I've seen kids go home in 3 years. It really depends on the case, what the parents are willing to do, and where the kids are in the process. And sometimes they don't go home at all. And then a lot of our foster families actually do adopt the children, and then they have to close out their license because they're full.
I would say that what you just said for me personally is the beauty of what you do. I would love for anybody that's listening right now, if that was the case and you had it in your heart to just take that step to be, help with the fostering side of things, and then that love was so strong. I think there's a certain kind of individual people, couples that truly that's really cool love to me. Really good people, and then to take it another step and to bring them in as their own. God bless. It's just straight out awesome to me. That's just me.
Absolutely. It really invigorates us and shows us there is hope for these kids and gives them a future life. It's devastating for us also because then we lose those foster family homes, but we need new ones to step into those places. So.
Mary, I know you and I have chatted a lot about stuff, and I know that, I kind of sometimes have a ton of questions, and we both, jump at things. I know that you're a mom and you do a lot of great things with your children and your community, but obviously you've got your own insight to this as well.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of questions. It is a difficult topic because it's difficult on both sides. No matter what the outcome, it's always hard, I think. I feel like that. I'm curious personally, though, because this is so taxing, how do you find balance back in your own life? Because it is heavy and difficult. You see such difficult things. How do you go home and find that balance and regain your own perspective to say, this is why we still keep doing this, even when it's tough, or an outcome. You want to reunify, but it's also difficult to take that child out of a house. That would just be hard.
It is. First and foremost, my faith in Jesus Christ is what really drives me. When I go home, I know that these kids are in his hands and I don't have to worry about what's going to happen to them, because even if something bad happens to them, it's in his plan and it's for the greater good. That being said, it's still difficult. It doesn't make things easy. So I try to keep my work life and my personal life as separate as possible. So I'll shut my work phone off at the end of the day. So that way I'm not being bothered at all times. Yeah. And that way I can spend time with my family and kind of recenter myself as well.
Right. That's good.
And I would say too, as we look at this and we're ever evolving here on Younger Life, I think a lot of times, and you know this firsthand, Mary, there have been shows that we've done that's just been crazy fun loving, and it's, we're just laughing. There are other times where we're, it goes right to the core of our heart, and you feel it. And this is definitely a show that, you feel it because you say to yourself, my gosh, we really, really need to help. We really need to help. And we're talking, we're being, shown all over the world right now via YouTube.com. We're on streams and we're on podcasts. But I want to throw this out there to you. When we're looking at things like this, how would you, initially talk to a couple, or if someone like listening right now, I'm really interested. I really like what these guys are saying, and I'm in the next chapter of my life. I think I would be good at that. How does that process start? Could you kind of hone in on that a little bit? Because I know it's got to be really involved.
Absolutely. First step is calling your local Department of Child Services office. Whether you're living in LaPorte County, Porter County, any of the surrounding ones, contact your local office and ask to talk to the licensed foster care specialist, and they will walk you through the process and be open and blunt and honest about what the process entails and what you might be getting yourself into.
I think that's important. I think definitely don't sugarcoat anything. It clearly is going to be a roller coaster, and I think it's important to tell them that right up front. I think, the more someone comes into it, knowing those things, I think it's probably easier. I have a few basic questions that I think people probably just are at least curious about. If it's a case of siblings, are siblings always placed together?
Not always.
Really?
LaPorte County does a fantastic job. We keep approximately 75 to 80% of our siblings together. But because of the shortage, it's very difficult to place large families. When we've got 4 to 6 kids, it's very difficult to place all those kids in one home at one time.
Okay. I'm curious so visitations occur. If in the case that a sibling group may not be able to remain together, do they get visitations with one another?
Most of the time it's a family, so all of the siblings will be there at one time with the parents that they were
Okay.
removed from. In the cases that parents are not allowed visitation, we do set up sibling visitation so they can maintain that
Okay.
connection as well.
That's important. And how often do foster children visit with their parents?
It varies. Obviously, with the babies, it's going to be a lot more because we want to make sure that they are bonded to their parents. But with the older kids, it depends on school schedules and parents' schedules and work. And we try to get them at least a couple times a week, but sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
Okay.
Thank you. Here's a couple text messages. Instant text, of course, here. 630-975-0970. You can call in as well. First off, love the show. I love what you're bringing to the table today. I've been thinking about this for the last year and a half with my husband. I need to know if there's a website and a phone number. I'd like to talk to someone personally about this. I'd like to throw this out. Do whatever you want during this time that you're here, because this is what I want out of this show, just so you both know. But
Absolutely.
Please.
If you're in LaPorte County, the local office number is 219-878-6370. You call there and just ask to speak with the licensed foster care specialist, and they will get you started. If you want to look at the website, you can go to www.in.gov/DCS, and that will take you to everything you need regarding our department, and then you can look up anything regarding foster parent requirements, contact numbers, county information, all of that is on there.
Here's a real beautiful one. Fostering was one of the most rewarding things my husband and I did, and we took it to the next level and are blessed with a son. These children just want normal lives and families, extended and otherwise. So again, this to me, I get very, like, you can't imagine that these kids just need for you to be their voices, and for folks to be able to come in, wonderful work that you guys are doing here locally. For me personally, this is what is rewarding. When you look at life, and a lot of people have different family situations. Sometimes you've got single moms, single dads, you've got significant others. There's craziness going on. But when you look at stuff like this, to me, this is it. These kids just want normal lives and families, extended and otherwise. That's the line. You know what I'm
Very
saying?
true.
It's
Very true.
It's
Our-
it's very unique.
I'm curious to know, are parents told or aware of where their children are placed?
Most of the time, they only know that the children are placed in foster care. Depending on the foster parent themselves, they may feel like they can be a support to that parent, and so they may reach out and contact that parent, and so they can know, yes, but you do not have to.
Has that you're aware of ever been a situation that's been dangerous?
Not that
for
I'm
them to
aware
know?
of.
Well, that's good. That would be a little scary. I'm sure that's probably a very common concern.
Here's a question, if you don't mind me throwing
Please,
this in there.
please.
Instant text, someone's asking, how does this work when you take in a foster child? How do I provide for them? Now, that's a great question. So could you kind of elaborate on that? So someone says, okay, they've gone through, the whole process. Now they get to the point where they are a foster family, or they're fostering. And then is that the correct terminology when you say that? When they're fostering, is that the correct word?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Now, how does that work? Do they get help? Like say they take in a couple of children, something like that?
They do. When you are a licensed foster parent, each child comes with a daily per diem. So a daily rate that they will pay the foster parents to assist with bills that go up, food that goes up, clothes that the child needs,
right.
school
Towards their-
supplies, everything towards their care. Absolutely.
Sporting stuff. Think of, we all know, especially if we're talking school age children, the stuff that they need and
Oh,
that
yeah.
they have,
Oh, yeah.
and that they, accumulate, and then the school activities and stuff, So I think that's important and a very valid question for those that are curious about that. How long is a foster license good for?
They are good for 4 years, and then you have the ability to relicense, and so you pretty much go through everything you went through at the beginning, just slightly tweaked, and then
really?
it's good for another 4 years at that time.
I see. How long, I'm just curious, my own curiosity, how long have some families, been doing it? I know I had met a foster family that had been fostering many, many, many years. I mean, kids in, kids out. They particularly went for teenage children, and that they were a dual working household too, and that's just kind of what worked for them. And they had teenagers in and teenagers out. It just was an ever changing number, it seemed. So I was curious how long.
A lot of the foster families we have currently have been licensed while I've been in this county for the last 4 years. But there are several that have been here a lot longer. I don't know the exact
I'm
years
just
for all of
curious,
them.
yeah.
And a lot of them, once they adopt, you can't have more than 5 children in your home at a time, foster and biological. So once they hit that 5, if they adopt, we can't keep them open for any reason. So they have to close regardless of how long they want to do it.
Even regardless of space, I didn't realize that.
Yep. It's the new standards, 5 children.
And I would say, you know, there may be some, and just I use this with the utmost respect to the process, there might be some validity in that, but it's kind of on another side. There are some great families, as you could say it more than any of us, that you probably see firsthand. You're like, oh my gosh, these guys just love kids and they're just awesome and
could handle
yeah,
it.
they can
and
easily
well, you
handle
know, it's funny. My
a few
sister
more.
and I
You
each
got
have 5
just do-
children, so you get them all together, and
It's
you know,
awesome.
you think
It's a football
that's
team.
a ton. But I'm saying I could see there are lots of families that I know that are larger than 5 children, you know. But I also understand the, you know, it requires space clearly, and you know, you need time. There has to be time in the day to snuggle with and visit with
Sure.
each
Take care
of
child.
all
They
of
need
them.
that, you know. So I
Absolutely.
understand that also. I think that's good. So what else could we as a community do to help out?
Any donations of anything that you have for kids, a lot of people will put together backpacks with blankets and teddy bears and hygienic items for different kids that we take in. You can drop all of that off at your Department of Child Services. Also, the local CASA office will take donations as well.
That's a great suggestion. I didn't,
We were just talking about Casa Kaya and Harmony House. I sat on the board here locally for years, and I just emceed and was the master of ceremonies over this past weekend for the wonderful event that took place at the LaPorte Civic Center in LaPorte, Indiana, for those folks that are viewing and listening from out of the area. And again, to hear the stories, lots of tears, but lots of tears of joys, and just to see these volunteers, to see these folks. So do you, if you don't mind me asking, and we could take that, and maybe another great topic or another great show would be to tie in Karen and the crew from Casa Kaya, Family Advocates, all those folks. Do you work with those folks too with your group? And is it kind of everybody overlaps? I'm just curious.
We are typically the driving force in the case, and then all of our kids are assigned a CASA or a Kaya. And so each of our kids has one, or they're on a waiting list for one. There's a shortage in those as well.
They're really. So people could volunteer to be that, right? That's not a trained. Now, clearly you went to school for social work.
Absolutely.
So, but for someone that would be interested in becoming a volunteer as far as CASA or Kaya, does that require a specific training? I mean, not just training college, or is this just a training program that someone could volunteer for?
I don't know about the college, but I do know that they do have training. And
Right.
if I remember right, there's some training coming up for CASA volunteers that want to get involved. So
And
I would
they
say
are-
contact the local office.
And they are not foster, correct? So they are, that might be another area. That would be a good idea to maybe get CASA in here and kind of talk to them. At least that's a spin-off of what else can we do to help out if it's not the physical fostering.
I'm telling you right now, I
concept.
know
So-
for a fact, because the stat was brought up by one of the judges that did speaking over the weekend. I think right now there's 87 children or some huge number on a waiting list that need not only a Casa Kaya, you know, kind of mentor, for lack of a better word, but just in general. Are the numbers that big? A lot? I mean,
Yeah, I
does
was
it
going
seem
to ask
grow?
numbers. Are we able to say, for one, how many foster households, not children, but foster adults or parents, whatever, are there in our county?
We currently have 36 homes.
That's it.
And how many children are in the system?
As of this month, right now, we have 173 children
Wow.
removed from their homes.
Wait, so that to me is insane. I thought your number was. I mean, I would think like, and I hate to say this, but this area is huge. I thought you were going to say
Well, you know, you think
3,600.
all of
or
LaPorte County
but
is very big.
But
Right.
36.
Yeah.
So that's nothing.
No, it's very, very limited. Even if every single one of them could take 5 children, it's still not enough to cover the amount of children we have out of their homes right now.
What happens with what was that number you just said that are just waiting? Like 100 and what?
We have 173
Okay.
out of home.
Out of
So what happens to that number, that 173? What's going on with them right now? I'm just curious.
We try to place with our local county homes. If we are full, we reach out to the surrounding counties, sometimes statewide. We contact licensed child placing agencies to try and find other homes, but a lot of our kids are out of county right now.
out of county then. That I was curious if that was even an option. I wasn't for sure if that was. So
It is.
Is
That's
there a
good to know.
situation where, and I'm just going to ask this because these might be questions that would come up from someone that would be thinking about it. If the child has a situation where they need a little more attention, they need some professional advice, professional guidance to go along with it because of the unique situation they're in, whatever it may be. That's all I'm going to say to be politically correct. Is there help for them? Like, okay, so we're a foster family, we're foster parents, we are taking in these couple of children, but they
Well,
need more than just our love
some
and
children
guidance.
need counseling
That's
and
what I'm
stuff.
saying.
That's it. And-
So do we offer that as a
We
group?
do.
We do.
Our department, most of our kids will come with services, whether it be just visitation or they've got therapy or some other services to help them. But if the foster family is struggling, we can also put in services for them to help them assist and deal with the kids that they are taking in.
I think it's good to point out. And I'm curious, we have to remember a lot of these children are removed for abuse and neglect. Now, there is a difference, right? Would you care to share the abuse and neglect kind of thing? Do they always go in hand? People want to assume that.
Good question.
Absolutely. There is a big difference. Typically, physical and sexual abuse is something being done directly to a child. Neglect tends to be more, I think of it more as being ignored or lack of supervision. Drugs fall under neglect a lot because of parents being impaired. So
Right.
a lot of times they will fall hand in hand, but it's not always. So
Yeah.
most of the time it's one or the other.
So that's why I think a lot of clearly these children are going to need some help because they've lived like this for a long time. It doesn't mean that they're being hurt on a daily basis, but it could be lack of food, lack of supervision, like you said,
Lack
just
of guidance.
instability
Absolutely.
on a regular basis. They don't know how to, grow up and how to live a normal daily schedule. And so I think that's why so many of these kids, I think it's important to point out that there are these services for them because they have to learn. And, some of them could come in at 15, and at 15 to try to readjust the way that they've lived their entire life
Right.
is extremely
I'm
difficult
going to
for
throw
them.
this out there. There's 3 of us in this room and all of you in the audience. Think of yourself if you could think back when you were 15. You just hit it right on the head. I remember when I was 15 and I was working multiple jobs and I was, going to school, but I was 15.
Right. There's
So
still a
I was just like,
15-year-old.
that whole thing is the goal. And I just thinking, out loud with you ladies here, is the goal to get the families that have had this unique situation going on, their fault, to get them back with their children and their family? Is that the goal? And then the other side of it is, I'll have you answer that first, and then that way I could expand on the question if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. Reunification is always our first goal. We believe that kids need to be with their biological parents and just in a safe environment. So safely home, families first is what we go by. Doesn't always happen, but that's what we believe.
Then the next part of that would be, okay, so the foster family is obviously there, willing and ready. You have got to see certain things. Can you kind of tell when the magic is there, when the love is there? Obviously, there's a lot of love there if they're fostering. That's first and foremost. But that out of the way, you could probably see, being the professional that you are, you're into a situation, you're like, oh my gosh, these guys are like the perfect fit. If this part A doesn't work,
Right.
like if they don't get back together with their parents, is that process long? Like if these parents are like in a situation where they're not changing and it's not happening.
It can be very long. The children have to be out of the home for 15 out of the past 22 months, and we are required to file for termination of parental rights. So at a minimum, you're typically, as a foster family, looking at 15 months before we can even look at another step or another avenue for the permanency for this child.
I guess to a question that, just being a guy, if a foster family comes in, they help out, they say as a couple, we want this person to be a part of our family. We love this person. We want them to be a child. In the back of their minds, you're thinking, and this would be me, just because I have family members that have adopted, I have friends that foster, I have friends that have adopted, and I know this comes up in adult conversations, and this is an adult program. But this coming back, can the family that the parental rights are being terminated from ever come back and toy with these people? Because I think that would stick in folks' minds, and I hope you don't mind me asking that question, because that would be a question that I would ask.
I know if termination of parental rights is awarded, the parents have the right to appeal. Beyond that, that's going to be a question for your attorney.
Okay, well,
Yep.
but I just figured,
That's fair.
and that's, but that's great. So once the parental rights are terminated on this side, the foster people or the foster family adopts these wonderful children. They're now their own, and they go about life. That's
Right. That
that's
is correct.
Awesome. That's awesome. But at that point, that awesome, caring foster family, you lose them out of your system.
If they have 5 children in their home, absolutely, they have to withdraw.
Okay, but if they don't, they could still do it until they get
Yeah.
that number to 5, people.
Absolutely.
Everybody out there.
Yeah.
But you're right, 36 times 5, it's 0 carried 3. It's like, oh my gosh, like you're not even near that number.
No.
Well,
It's
and
not enough.
clearly the supply does not meet the demand, which is terrible.
gosh.
So I have some, like I said, some basic questions thinking for somebody that might be considering it out there. I know we keep talking about foster parents. Is a single parent allowed to be a single adult that can obviously can pass all the requirements? I mean, but are they able to consider being a foster parent?
Absolutely. We do have single parents that are foster parents. When we look at those, we tend to look and see what their support system looks like, because being a single parent is difficult regardless. But
Agreed.
when you're taking in kids that are not your own, it can be even tougher. So absolutely, if you have the support system to help you out, come. We need you too.
I did not know that. That's an awesome question. I actually, it didn't cross my mind, because I just thought when you think of
just
foster
assume.
family or foster parents, it's just significant others
Right.
or, whatever it may be. I love that. So
I
that
think
is
that's
a really
good-
cool thing.
A good option, and I think a lot of people would be curious about that. I'm also curious, this might just be in your own opinion, what do you find is the most difficult age level to place?
In LaPorte County, we struggle placing babies,
Really?
Oh,
which would be, it seems kind of backwards, but a lot of people are working parents.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to deal with all of a sudden they've got a baby who's up 3, 4, 5 times at night, and they
Right.
have to continue doing daily life. So babies are difficult for us right now.
I saw your facial expression,
I
and
was
obviously
surprised
I
by
was
that.
looking at you at that point. As a parent with an 18 and a 22-year-old, I love where my daughters are at now,
Right.
because we're all adults, and it's a whole
Right.
different chapter.
It certainly is. It's
But
nice to
I
get to that
would
next
love-
level. I mean, my youngest is 4.5. It's nice to get
Yes,
to that level. But I am surprised to
love
hear that.
babies.
Only because I think, I also have children that are teenagers. And so I think I could see that teen years I could understand why that would be difficult.
Yeah,
Those are
oh, yeah.
also
You know.
difficult.
Yes.
So I mean,
Those are
they're
all
just
those
more
seconds.
difficult by nature. Their personalities. It's the
Sure.
teen years. We all have done that.
Right.
Yep.
Been a little more difficult to deal with, or
Think about
a
the
little more
mindset at that
sassy.
age.
Right. There's struggling to see where their own independence
Mm-hmm.
is, and I think especially if they have any issues on top of that. Teen years can be very challenging anyways.
Absolutely.
So I'm surprised to hear that it's the youngest ones, because I think that's more easier. They aren't sassy.
Right.
But they are up. They
Right.
are up, and they
That
do
is
require a
great.
lot. So I was just curious,
Yes.
how that is, and wow. So obviously, there's a lot that that needs to be done, but also a lot that we can do for those of us. Like, it makes me sad. Makes me say, oh, I'll take them all. But I'm already at 5, so that's my household. Thank goodness. I love it. I'm very blessed. So. I can't, but there are lots of other things that we can do. I like that. I'm really interested about the donation thing. I never thought of that, but a lot of these children, obviously they don't know they're being taken until right then, right? So
Right.
some of them, do they not bring anything with them, or?
Some do. It's difficult to get a lot of belongings. Some parents will be tough and not want to give up anything. And the ones that we do get stuff, sometimes it doesn't fit them well. So there is some minimal amount of funding for the kids that come with nothing to be able to purchase, basic necessities.
I mean, toothbrush. I mean, we're talking
Right.
like literally you leave the house. I'm saying I'm not even talking about clothes, but like you said, the blanket or the teddy bear
Right.
or a toothbrush. And, you know, from baby up needs a toothbrush, for Pete's sake. That's their own. You know?
And that doesn't always
know.
come with them.
Yeah.
So
I
Okay.
guess I'm trying to wrap my arms around some of the things you ladies are talking about, because obviously you're very knowledgeable on the subject we're talking about today. But looking at this, so there are times when the child does not even know until it is that point that they are going to be taken from their home.
most of the time.
That is got to be
It's terrifying.
so difficult.
It's terrifying.
I'm not saying I think it's great that the services are being
Right.
offered there.
It's
to the child.
necessary.
It is necessary. Agreed.
It's
But that's
terrifying.
got to be, that for you has got to be so, you are trying to help out and you've got this wonderful family that's trying to help out. But now you're taking that child and saying, we've got to take you. They obviously know in their heart and their mind, especially if they're of that age and they've been through stuff, they know that there's a reason. But man, that's got to be the first huge hard hurdle to get over. Am I right on that one?
It can be, definitely.
Traumatizing.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think honestly,
Wow.
it's very, for all of you involved. I'm talking every party, not just the
Right.
children. I mean, for you, that's why I was so curious. This is such heavy business. How you do manage to kind of gain the perspective of this is important and obviously necessary, regardless of how difficult. It would be very tough, you know. I mean, we've all taken our kid to daycare or to school and them cry and cling to your leg. That's so much more at a different level that you have to pull them away and know that they're leaving and with strangers.
Absolutely.
Although it's for the greater good, it's still very, very difficult. I think it's
And not every child
Hard.
is crying and screaming when you take them. Some of them just deal with it because it's part of the instability of life. And so not every kid that comes into a foster home is going to be absolutely terrified and want to go home. Some will, but not all.
See,
especially when that's all they know. That's the
well,
hard part.
and I think that is an excellent point that you have brought up, because again, someone that may have the question of wanting to move in that direction or help out, just being aware of that. Is that what you also teach the families and the folks that are fostering in these sessions and in these getting to that level where you can now be a foster parent or a foster family?
We try to. There's a lot to cover in the 3 classes that they have to take. But once they are licensed, they need to take ongoing classes, about
That's awesome.
15 hours a year. And so if they've got a kid placed with them that has some sexual issues, there is training available that they can go and learn more about those issues.
Yeah, that is, I mean, I think this is just on a whole other level. Man, I've learned a lot. We say this with a
Right.
lot of our shows here on Younger Life, that you learn a lot. But I think this is one of those where, wow. you
And,
can
and this is
really,
why it's
really-
important to talk about, especially in the month of May. I didn't realize that was foster care month. And I think it's an important time to talk about it. And I think we'll certainly make sure we do next year too. I mean, I think it's important. It needs to keep being addressed because it's always going to be there on some level. I mean, it would be the hope to not, but it's always
I
going to be
think
there.
you
on some
need
level.
you need to be a regular caller monthly of the show to give us stats and updates, because we could do the call to action. We can call it the Younger Life call to action. And come on, guys, we've only got 36 families out there. Is there someone else out there that can help? So getting to that next level, you said 3 classes, a lot of paperwork. So the process from A to when you could actually starting to help make a difference is what? Is that a month, 2 months?
Typically 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
But it depends on the foster family. If they start the process, they're almost done, and something comes up that halts them, they can take a pause and come back to it a few months down the road
See, I
after
like
that's
that.
taken care of.
That's nice. I'm curious, just other states, if you even know the answers. Are the requirements pretty much state to state the same, or do they vary a lot by state?
I would say they probably vary. There's going to be some similarities, like criminal background
Well,
checks.
I
and
would
whatnot.
hope that
I
is.
would hope.
And truthfully, anytime any adult is working with children,
Agree.
you
Right.
have to be able to know that they do not, have their criminal background check cleared. Whether it's at the school, whether it's sports practices, I don't
tell
care
you-
what it is. And still, we always still
agree.
hear the bad stories. There might be 1 in 300, but
Right.
it's still there are negative stories out there, so they have to be able to pass that.
Whatever
right.
you do, it's very interesting you bring that up, because even in recent years now, I've taught religious education classes pretty much all my
Yeah.
adult life and then some, and they do those types of checks.
That makes
so I don't care
perfect
if you're a
sense.
scout, girl, or boy, or cub.
It makes perfect sense.
You have to.
Our school began a while ago. I'm not even sure how many years. It's been quite a few years ago. That to attend any school functions. Now I'm not talking sports games, but during the school day to attend a play that happens during the daytime or like during school hours, or to come to have lunch with your children. If it's during the school day, you have to have a limited background check. And that is also if you're going to go on field trips, anything like that. But anytime you're in the classroom setting of any sort during school hours, you have to be able to pass a limited background check. Now, it's a very quick and easy process. And I remember when they first started it, it has to be renewed every year. And I thought, oh, are you kidding? You've known me forever.
Right.
But it makes perfect sense that they do that, because obviously because someone passes a criminal check doesn't mean they're going to in a year or two. I mean, so I think it's so important, and although it may be a nuisance at times, we have to remember the reason behind that. They're taking care of our children, and I would hope that everybody would understand the validity in that, especially even in the foster setting. It's terrible. Some of these parents, like you said, it's not always abuse and it's not always neglect where they're starving their kid or something. They could have a lot of mental health issues.
I was going to say issues.
They could
Yeah.
be on drugs and try desperately. We all know what a serious issue drugs can be. I mean, you think some of these people are completely normal, quote unquote, in so many other ways, but for whatever reason got on drugs, and it may have been completely accidental, but then they are stuck there
Right.
and can't get out of
Yep.
it. So I would hope that those parents would realize why this is important, even though they, I'm sure, fight it. They're not going to want it at first. I hope they understand that while they're getting help too.
Absolutely.
Why this is necessary for their children. And everybody wants a happy ending with everything. It's just it's hard. That's why it's so heavy. It's just, and it's so varying. I think it's not always someone beating their kid. It's all it could be the person that had an accident, got hooked on pain meds, and then all their money goes towards drugs instead of food, or and it's just sad. It's just so varying. And I guess if you can do nothing else, at least if you're sending good vibes, good energy, and some prayers their way, at least that helps.
Absolutely.
I would say too, as you look at this, and as things come up, maybe to look at this as the campaign moving forward would be, maybe we can get some of those stat numbers to go up every time we chat with you or whatever, even if it's a handful of families. Do they have to be 21? Is there a cutoff as well? And obviously all equal in between and before and after, to say that to be politically correct, but do they have to be 21? Is there an age that they stop at?
There's not an age that they stop, but you do have to be 21.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I'm liking
One last thing, but definitely before we end, I wanted to make sure we bring this up. What if someone suspects abuse or suspects a child is being abused or neglected? What should they do? And can they do it anonymously? If it's phone calls or online reporting, whatever it is, how do they do that? At least get it looked into. Maybe they just aren't sure. I know teachers and stuff are required by law
Sure.
if they suspect anything to report. So where would the rest of us report if we suspected, and how does that happen?
In the state of Indiana, everybody is considered a mandated reporter. Definitely schools and whatnot, but if you are a neighbor and you know that something's going on, you need to call. The phone number for that is 800-800-5556. You do not have to leave your name. The investigators that are going out and talking to the kids and whatnot would appreciate a name, because sometimes it helps to talk to you personally and find out what exactly you are seeing and get a feel from you, rather than you calling the hotline and then the hotline passing the information up to the county. So if you leave your name and number, it's helpful for us, but if not, that is okay as well.
800-800-5556. Okay, I'm liking that. I want to spin back because I think it's awesome that you chose this to be your career, and the path that you're taking to help make a difference in the lives of others. So awesome, and hats off to you. God bless. Now, that being said, someone out there listening, a young professional or someone that may be in a new chapter in their life, is that a bachelor's type thing? Is that a 4-year, and or is that a bachelor's of?
It depends.
Okay.
For the state of Indiana, they require a 4-year bachelor's degree.
Okay.
There is a few different ones. You can have a bachelor's in social work, psychology, sociology, and criminal justice, I believe, are the
Wow.
4 major ones. So there are a lot of different avenues you can go through to get in.
I see. I
And
think
other
that's
paths
awesome.
you
I
can take
didn't even
later that
realize that.
still
Yeah.
help out. You know what I mean? Like you
That's
could
great.
still, there's other, you have a lot of options to move and grow and still be assisting. I think that's really important to point out.
So let's
good
spin
information.
the cards here. One more time. Can you throw out? You gave a number in the beginning part of the show here on Younger Life. That was an 878 number.
Yes.
Can you repeat what that was for and throw that out there again? And then again, folks, we have a 800 number for you as well. And describe what we've got on both of those numbers, please.
So if you are interested in becoming a foster family, call the LaPorte County office at 219-878-6370. And that's if you live in LaPorte County. If you live in a surrounding county or another county in the state of Indiana, you're going to have to go onto the website to find out where you need to call. If you are concerned for abuse or neglect for a child, that number is 800-5556.
Okay, so on a side note here, as we were in the green room out front and we were all chatting, you're a total athlete. This is awesome. So this fits right into Younger Life.
Yes.
You played high school softball, correct?
Absolutely.
You played collegiate softball. And
Absolutely.
obviously you're now a professional and you still do that. Can you tell our audience a little bit about, if you don't mind, a little bit about that personal side of life?
Well,
Because
and it
that's
sounds like that's what
awesome.
she uses to help find her own balance.
I
A
like
little
this.
bit.
To
Italian,
retouch
thank
with
you.
your own, who you are. You might have a rough day and you can go out on the softball field, kind
love
of leave
it.
it all behind,
Absolutely. So sports have always been a major component in my life. Used to be a lot more of an addict than I am now with sports, but now it's just, one league a week and I'm good to go. And that really helps release a lot of things
Yeah.
and just kind of cut back and have some fun with friends. So
That's
Is-
awesome.
Now, let me ask
Well-
you, because in a part of your life, so you did fast pitch and you're still so young, so hear me out, because I'm the old guy here. In your younger years, but now, is that still a fast pitch as you're now playing, or is that more of a, as you would call it, a slower pitch?
now it's just slow pitch. Yeah. Has to be a 6-foot arc
Oh.
in order to come in.
that's
So it's
cool.
slow
Yeah.
pitch.
Yeah.
Yep.
What position do you play?
Currently anywhere.
Oh, really? That's nice.
good.
That's
In,
nice.
I like
in
that.
fast pitch, I was a catcher, and now I typically play infield or pitcher.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
How fun.
See, that's what I would say to the young ones out there, the way that you're staying not only physically fit, but I think the other spin, and you get the release on life,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. You're doing that, and I think that is just phenomenal, because as you continue to mature and do your stuff, that's a great way to stay active, fit. Can I ask, on a personal level, how is the eating habits? Are they pretty decent? I
Pretty
mean,
decent.
Yeah.
But in our line of work, it's pretty rough in the office because there's junk food everywhere. So
Isn't that the case? I
That's
mean,
right,
everywhere.
right.
It's like, you walk around and it's just seems like the junk food jumps out at you. It's tough, that's for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nicole, so much for sharing so much information. Even though it, is a little heavy, it's important to get out there and tell people about. And I hope that those people that are texting and even considering it, look into it a little further. Even if they find it's not for them, they might find some way to help out. And I know that's something I'm going to take home. I take something home mentally every day, and I think I'm going to take that home and see what we can do just on a small scale basis, that we could say at least we feel like we're doing something. So.
Absolutely.
And listening and being there. And I think, like you said, whether it's you see something that may not be normal, for lack of a better word, honing in and getting, in touch with the professionals here locally, maybe taking that extra step and saying, this is something I may want to try, or just saying, you know what, I can't do this because of my situation in life right now, but there's a big but there. I could send out positive vibes. I could keep folks in my prayers. I could, go to fundraisers, donations. The donations to me are great, because I would have never even thought about that. And when you're saying donations, you are talking whether it's clothes, whether it's blankets, whether it's money. Is that correct?
I do not know about money, but definitely clothes and
Okay.
material items for the kids, because
Right.
that's something we can physically give them when
Yeah.
they're going into
Got
a
it.
That's what I mean, like the
foster family home.
toothbrush thing. That's
Right.
something I never even thought of.
Absolutely.
Until you said that, I didn't realize you guys took donations. I think that's a good little care package kind of thing. I like that idea.
Well, thank you very much for
Thanks,
stopping
Nicole.
by here to Younger Life. We've got
Good luck at your
a
game
minute or
tonight.
So.
I heard you
thank
said
you.
you have a
But
game tonight. Good luck at your game.
The only
Thank
thing
you.
I always said is you better, because I said it's beautiful outside. You know, I know it's a little unique being where we're at in the Midwest area, but you're like, as long as it doesn't rain on my
I'm
my
hoping
game
for no
tonight.
rain either. Today we're doing a kite flying thing, so I really
cool.
hope that the rain holds off. You know,
It will.
It will. You know, it will. Maybe after Nicole's game, it can let loose.
Nicole,
Sounds
woo!
great.
Do we,
Thank
know
you,
what,
guys.
do we know what position we're playing tonight, by the way?
No.
No. It's,
You'll find out when you get
find
there.
out when I get there.
Is it a co-ed thing you do? too?
No, it's just a women's
It is
league.
I
women's
love it.
league. That's nice. That's
See,
fun.
and I said this to Nicole. My daughters both played softball, and from fast pitch to whatever, and I am just blown away
Yeah.
on the athleticism,
The skill.
Oh,
the skill.
to go see the collegiate. I love the high school, but the collegiate is like, oh my gosh,
It's crazy.
It's better than going to see. In all respect, a pro gamer.
Oh,
I was like, these guys are
the
rocking it.
heart in there, I think,
Oh.
makes such a big difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, when you're talking any college or any high school sport, the heart is so different because you give it everything. You know what I mean? And I love to watch. One of my daughters has always played softball, and this is the first year that they didn't. So we aren't doing the softball thing, but my oldest son is in t-ball. So we're doing now the boys' side, and that's fun too. We had a great time. He had a game last night and went 3 for 3. He was a hitting pool.
Awesome.
Woo!
He did great.
And Nicole, I'm that kind of guy that in my family, I was the music arts kind of kid and radical and made up for all 6 kids. I did try all sports. I was terrible at all sports except for basketball. But, I went to Catholic school and, it was like whatever. But from football to wrestling to everything, I was like, and you say t-ball, I was like, ooh. I did fast pitch, I did t-ball.
I played softball when I was very, very young. I mean, very, very young. And my sister and I once were playing catch outside. And I was standing like as close as I am to Rick. It was ridiculous. And she threw a ball at me. She hit me dead in the forehead and knocked me backwards. And honestly, after
Nicole's
that, I was
laughing.
like, I'm never playing. I was just so, ball shy. It would come near me and I'm like, like forever, like the typical girl. I'm
How did
scared
that
it's
go
going to hit me. It was terrible. I was so afraid. And we still laugh over that. So, she kind of ruined me on softball, but it's so much fun to watch. It really is a lot
And
of
I think
fun,
it's a
so.
great way, by the way, on that whole Younger Life theme.
It
to
really is.
Stay fit, to stay active,
Well, and
keep yourself going.
in your line, your line of work, again, it is heavy business. It's nice to know that you have a release somewhere,
Absolutely.
so I like that.
Nicole for
I think it's
president,
nice.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nicole.
By the way,
Thank you for having me.
219-878-6370, and again, 800-800-5556. That wraps it for another great version of Younger Life. I'm Rick Federici.
I'm Mary Anthony.
And thanks to Nicole.
Thanks,
we
Nicole.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to the beginning of a new way of living. It's Younger Life.
AM 1420, WIMS, Michigan City, a Girard Media Company station.
CBS News, I'm Steve Kathan. In Washington, D.C., Republican Party unity on the table, and the question for presumptive nominee Donald Trump is, will House Speaker Paul Ryan back him? CBS's Stephen Portnoy joins us live now from the nation's capital.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Dozens of protesters holding signs demonstrated outside, while inside the presumptive GOP nominee huddled with top congressional Republicans. Paul Ryan said last week he